You are listening to the Enormocast.
The Enormocast is proud to be sponsored by Black Diamond Equipment.
At Black Diamond, the process of building gear begins and ends with climbing. A need drives an idea, and that idea is tweaked, tested, and refined in a never-ending cycle. Use, design, engineer, build, repeat. Guided by this philosophy, Black Diamond has been making equipment for the full spectrum of climbing pursuits for more than 25 years. From the boulders to the big walls and everything in between, Black Diamond makes gear and apparel you can trust when it matters.
Visit blackdiamondequipment.com to check out the latest all-new gear, as well as a fine-tuned collection of apparel, and get the latest stories, photos, and videos on their blog, Black Diamond Experience.
Listen, where are you playing in town? You playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
big
big
house.
place
We sold
outside
it
of
out.
town. That's a
Very
big
nice.
place. You sold it out.
20,000
I'll
You really should.
The hell are you doing? I couldn't sleep. I'm checking the ropes. There was a frayed end on your rope, and I'm cutting it out. Good weather, bad weather. Now or later, anytime is good for climbing.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And don't forget, you can go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Normo at checkout to get a discount on great coffee.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Calous. It is about 6 o'clock local time here in Spain. Still in Spain, lucky me. This is episode 76 of the Enormocast, a conversation with American climber Ethan Pringle. Sat down right here in my friend's apartment, directly across from the infamous bell tower. Been dealing with the bell tower. You'll hear the bell tower later in the interview, although I had to edit out quite a few chimes from the frickin' bell tower. I'm sure it's going to ring any second. It's going to ring again because it rings every 15 minutes. So we can look forward to that. Anyway, still in Spain, still having a great time. Still getting my ass handed to me on hard sport climbing, but that's why I came, so that's cool. Still eating lots of ham, still complaining about the shit at the crags. So really nothing's changed since last time I talked to you guys. All right, little business to take care of. I will be at the Red Rock Rendezvous, March 27th to the 29th, not long after I get home. Do a live show, plus hanging around, probably do something with the Black Diamond folks at the Black Diamond booth. Anyway, all that will be revealed. Still haven't dealt with it because I'm here in Spain and I'm sort of being lazy about that stuff. But something will happen and I will be there and hopefully you guys will show up. There's a bunch of other stuff going on without the Enormocast, of course. Clinics, superstar climbers, awesome environment, great camping, partying, booths, all that sort of stuff that goes with festivals. They've got a great site out near Red Rocks, away from the city a little bit. And it's a really nice place to be in March, usually. Though I think they're having a hard time right now. Sorry, Red Rocks people, if you're listening to this. I think it's raining, snowing, all those sorts of things. Hopefully that'll stop in a couple weeks. All right, March 27th to the 29th. Check it out at redrockrendezvous.com for all the information. Hopefully see you there. Moving on to the interview with Ethan Pringle. Ethan Pringle, interesting guy. Don't know him real well, but I have met before, and we climbed together a little bit in a way, a couple years ago actually here in Spain, which we talk about. And Ethan's interesting. He's part of a first generation that kind of got into gym climbing here in the United States as kids, about 20 years ago, a little less for him. But it seems like these gyms pumping out super tough, super hard climbing kids have always been here, but kind of like the internet, there was a time without that. I think Ethan started at Mission Cliffs not long after it opened. Mission Cliffs in the Bay Area was one of the first big full-service gyms where they figured out that if you want to have a good business plan, don't just create a training center for climbers that already exist, but create a place to create climbers, to bring your customers to you. And that's really when the gyms took off, I think, is when they figured that out. Don't rely on penniless climbers to run your business. Create some folks, get people into it. And 20 years later, we're sort of in this new paradigm that didn't exist back then. And one of the things we've gotten used to are these hard climbing kids coming out of gyms and burning us all off on our projects. Well, Ethan, along with a bunch of other kids and a bunch of other big names that you know, were in fact the first generation. But I sort of postulated that for some reason, and we actually get into it, I think, in this interview, Ethan never quite was one of the cool kids. He was always a top climber. And let me tell you, I belayed him the other day on his project here in Sirana. I don't know, it's 8C something ridiculously hard. And the guy is a machine. He climbs as well or better than anybody I've ever seen. Move for move, he's a monster. But again, feel like maybe, he missed the boat a little bit on becoming something of a media giant. And actually, interestingly, that's what we get into in this. We get into the struggles of him being a professional climber, of looking at a life of climbing, of whether it's worth it, of the things that he's weak with in terms of that, the things that he's good at. And it's a very revealing interview where he's pretty open and honest, talking about how difficult it is. And truth be told, I think we look at professional climbers and think it's this great big fairy tale, but there are hardships, there are sacrifices to be made. Nobody's getting rich. Oh yeah, there it is. There's the bell. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? It happens all the time. Yep. The bell keeps ringing and ringing. Can you tell what time it is? How many was that? All right, bell's over. Going to keep going here. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Yeah, we think of professional climbers as having some sort of fairy tale life, but it's filled with sacrifices. I'm not going to say nobody's getting rich, because I think that may have just changed in the last couple months. But most of these guys and girls are living hand to mouth and just trying to make it work. And we also talk about how, as a professional climber, you're always thinking about the future, what happens when your performance starts to lag a little bit. So it's a really interesting conversation and an open conversation, and I appreciate Ethan coming on and being so honest about what he's dealing with. So hope you enjoy it. Let's check out the accidental hard man, Ethan Pringle. Look, folks, we all know that ice climbing is a miserable, cold endeavor, punctuated by small spikes of joy, mostly when it's over. But if you're planning on heading to the famous ice park in Ouray, Colorado, to climb out your self-loathing, why not up the joy ratio by staying in the Wiesbaden Hotel and Spa? Imagine, after your third round of screaming barfies, you can retire to their vapor cave and soaking pool for a, quote, strange, dark, steamy underworld soaking experience. The Wiesbaden is affordable luxury in Ouray. In fact, if you climb in Ouray and don't stay there, you are totally blowing it. Discounts all winter. Go to wiesbadenhotsprings.com for more information. Once again, that's wiesbadenhotsprings.com. It's really the only way you'll find me ice climbing. Okay. All right, check. Okay, well, let's get started then. So I'm sitting in Cornudella de Montsant in my friend Joseba's apartment. He was nice enough to just hit the road and let me use the apartment. I'm sitting here with Ethan Pringle, American climber, lost in Spain, from the Bay Area, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been in Spain on this trip?
Been here since the 1st of February, and it's, the 25th now? Or, no, 23rd?
Yeah, I don't know what day it is.
So just over 3 weeks, yeah.
But we met 2 years ago, almost exactly this time in Margalef. I think it was February, early March as well. And
yeah,
it was
maybe early April even.
Yeah, no.
I think I arrived there late March.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it that late in the year?
Yeah. Remember, I got to Margalef March 26, 27.
Oh, that's right, because I was here for my birthday, which is coming up, 25th of March.
Nice.
So yeah, that's right. That's
Sweet.
Exactly right. So yeah, we met in Margalef last year, and just think we climbed at the same cliff one day and had dinner together one night.
Yeah.
But of course, Ethan has been sort of a name on the scene since you were like a little kid, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, when did you start climbing? Like about what age?
I started when I was 8. Back in
inside?
95, yeah, at Mission Cliffs.
Okay.
Yeah, the local climbing gym. I discovered, well, I think my dad heard about Mission Cliffs from some friend at work, and I used to play roller hockey back in the day, and we were coming home from, my dad was driving me home from like a roller hockey practice or tournament or something, and he was like, hey, we should stop by this place that just opened. It's only 4 blocks away from our house in the city, and I was like, I don't know, I'm really tired, like, we should just go home. Like, I don't really feel like doing this right now. Just giving him, like, some little kid attitude, and he was like, no, let's check it out, it'll be cool. And so we went in, and I remember my very first thought when I walked in, because I saw all the bikes, like, on the bike rack where the old front desk used to be, and I looked up at the walls, and I was like, how the heck do people ride their bikes down these walls? And then I was like, oh, they use their hands and feet. I get it. And then, yeah, from there on out, it was just like every day at the climbing gym.
Really? Just initially, you just like went for
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I still played hockey for a little while afterward. Mm-hmm. And I was always really into snowboarding, too. And I still did that for years and years, like pretty dedicatedly, but not as much after I discovered climbing. Mm-hmm. Like pretty much as soon as I discovered climbing, it was like my main interest in life. Yeah.
And that actually, the Mission Cliffs gym was like one of the first really big, it's like in a big industrial, old industrial warehouse.
Yeah. It's in like a steel factory, old steel factory or metal working factory or something. Right. There's this gigantic hook.
Yeah, that hangs in the middle of it.
Yeah, that hangs
like
above the bouldering area. Yeah.
Right.
But it was one of the premier, like, first, like, big gyms in the country.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it was sort of
back in 95.
That you found that.
Yeah. It only took about 6 months after it opened for us to discover it.
That's cool.
And then when I first started, my older brother, Brooks, he climbed a little bit too when I first started, but then he kind of like, he was into a lot of their stuff, and I think he was in college and he lost interest pretty quick, but I stuck with it. And yeah, I just spent like every day at the climbing gym, just like a little gym rat, total fiend, just going all the time, and didn't really climb outside much first couple of years I climbed.
What other stuff were you into? What kind of kid were you?
I guess I was like always into sports, more so the sports that were like independent type of sports. I mentioned that I played roller hockey, and I was really into that, but I think I was definitely like a little puck hog. I didn't pass much. and yeah, snowboarding, super into snowboarding. I was just really into like the outdoors, and my parents, they were like, the way they met was through windsurfing. They were both like semi-pro windsurfers, and they were always traveling for windsurfing and just taking me on cool vacations and stuff. And we were always traveling as a family when I was a kid. So, yeah, maybe that was part of the reason that I hated like being in school and stuff. So I just wanted to be like traveling and being outside and stuff.
So were you typical in that sense of like climber kid who was like not into school, not dealing well?
I suppose so, yeah. Right. Yeah, I definitely had a hard time in school, pretty much all the way up until I graduated high school. I never really liked it that much, and my routine was that, like the semester would start, and I would always start off really well, and I would be like crushing and doing all my homework and acing all my tests, and then like I just would, just fall off like completely. And yeah, it was like a miracle that I didn't like have to repeat any grades or anything.
So were you into the comp scene then as a little kid?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That was like, that was the big thing in the Bay Area. There was like the Bay Area Youth Climbing League or something, and I was on that team. And there were like junior comps around the Bay Area, a little bit of bouldering, a little bit of top roping, like some leading for the older kids. And that's how I got into competitions. It's pretty funny. I admitted to Spencer and Vicky today that I think I cheated and or lied at my very first competition when I was like 10 years old. I was there, and maybe I would have won anyway. I don't know.
This is an Enormocast exclusive. Just so you know, this
Yeah.
is the first time anyone's heard about this.
We can think of some
we're
good
gonna have to
like
go back and like
tabloid
we're gonna
headlines.
have to like fix the record. So
Yeah.
go tell us what happened. Admit it.
Oh, just hold on to your butt here. There's going to be a lot of admissions. You better get ready. No, I don't know. The arete was off and I grabbed it because I was like cruxing and, and then I just like kept going. Like nothing happened and I got down to the ground and I was like, sweet, I did it. And the judge was like, well, I think you grabbed the arete. And I was like, no, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
And then I won.
Oh. This is horrible.
I know.
All right.
I'm a terrible person.
You feel better?
Well,
Got that off your chest? All right. Well,
I hope I still have my sponsors by the end of this interview. Yeah, I was 10.
Okay, we're gonna.
I forgave myself.
There's a few,
or I have forgiven myself by now.
There's a few 10-year-olds who have lied in their lifetime. We're gonna go ahead
Really?
And give that one to you.
I didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, I was into comp. I was doing the comps. I think that was the last time that happened.
Right.
Not the last time I ever lied in my life, but the last time what happened during a competition or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, now competitions are pretty well regulated.
Yeah.
It's nearly impossible to...
They'll keep an eye on you.
Yeah. They know how you're doing. They know when you cheat. They take these things pretty seriously. Yeah, I did the comps and, I started going outside after maybe like a year and a half. Mm-hmm. I had there were a lot of really cool older people like at Mission Cliffs who kind of mentored me. Right. And I was really lucky. And there were a lot of kids too, but those aren't the people that I would climb with on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Like eventually I would start to partner up with other young kids who were like crushing and stuff. And that was really fun. But like for the first couple years, it was pretty much all much older people in their 20s, 30s, mm-hmm. some people even older than that. And let's see. I went to Castle Rock at one point when I was really young, maybe 9 or something. And then this older guy who I used to climb with a lot, this guy Brig, he took me to Pinnacles. That was like my first day of sport climbing.
Zone, right?
Yeah.
If you're up in that area, there's sport climbing there.
Yeah, there's some decent sport climbing at Pinnacles. Right. Old school area. Like ground up ethics for all the first ascensionists.
Well, because we're sitting here in Spain, and I mean, let me just say this: it's pretty typical that everybody will just tell you that everyone in Spain climbs so hard, mm-hmm. which isn't true. There's just the same. I mean, there's a lot of people who climb really well here, but there's the same. There's people climbing the 510s and they're climbing the 5 and struggling. For and everything else. Yeah. But the big thing is that like, in the U.S., to go climb outside sport climbing, it seems like everything's been bolted and there's shitloads of it. Yeah. But then you come here and you're just like, no, there's not a lot of sport climbing in the United States.
No, really.
You take all the sport climbing in the U.S. and it's like half a Sirana.
Yeah, right.
So, the opportunity because I always ask, people like yourself that grew up climbing in the gym, and you're kind of the first generation, I think, or pretty close to it, that really could start when they were like 8 or 10 inside of a gym. I mean, we just said Mission Cliffs was one of the earliest big gyms.
For sure.
At least in the U.S. When did you start going outside? Well, I mean, other than Pinnacles, everybody in the Bay Area would be like, well, have you gone to Yosemite? But that's not the same thing. Like,
no. Yeah, for a little kid.
Different worlds, yeah.
Unless you're like Jim Herson's kids or something. Right. You're probably not climbing Yosemite when you're 10 or whatever. And back when I started climbing, like I think we've seen a big resurgence in trad, big wall climbing. Mm-hmm. That's like, pretty popular again these days, where it kind of like wasn't when I started climbing. When I started climbing, the thing was sport climbing, and it was like in the 80s, most of the 90s, like sport climbing was huge. And that's just like, the people that I idolized in climbing, like all my pro climber heroes were sport climbers mostly. I mean, that's just the thing that everybody did and that everyone was like famous for or whatever. So yeah, like trad, big wall trad and bouldering and stuff. The stuff that's in Yosemite didn't really it wasn't on my radar at all. Yeah. I mean, I knew that obviously I knew like what El Cap was and stuff, but beyond that, I didn't really know much about the climbing in Yosemite. I did go to like, I went and climbed on some granite when I was really young, like at Donner Summit and around Lake Tahoe and at Mickey's Beach. I mean, that's not granite, but like I got out to some other places, but yeah.
So how long did you end up competing? If you went through high school,
right,
and kind of youth leagues, did you continue to compete into your sort of adult life? Yeah,
I did for sure. And really, the last couple of years, I've done so few comps, like almost none. The last big comp I did was ABS Nationals 2013, so over 2 years ago.
Right.
Hardly done any since then. I've done a few local comps in the Bay Area, like at the Touchstone gyms and stuff. And actually, the very last one I did at Dogpatch, I didn't climb very well, and I didn't even make finals. Yeah, they took 3 people from that day to finals, and then 3 like overall competitors, and I didn't make the top 3. I nearly made the top.
Hold on, wait for it. No, but now it's gonna actually do the ring.
Yeah, that was what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, 4. It's like the pre-ring. We're sitting directly across from the bell tower here in Cornadea. So
yeah, the church.
Wait for it to go, do its thing. 2 more
Can't
hours.
interrupt the bell. The recording of the bell.
And then when it gets done, it'll tell you it's done.
Not this time.
I think it's done.
Yeah, keeps you on your toes.
Wait. It's just to remind you that your life is passing. That's basically what it is. It's just like, that's another hour gone.
Have fun. Have fun with the next hour. We'll tell you when it's over.
So you're transitioning kind of away from competition is what it sounds like, to a certain extent.
I have aspirations to go back and try my best at some comps. It just so happens that this year I would love to, like being in Spain for a month is pretty good training for like even indoor sport climbing. So I would love to go and compete at like the SCS Nationals this year, but I've already committed to be at the Red Rock Rendezvous.
Oh,
and nice. So are you going to go too?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. See you there.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's kind of like the frequency of which I've done comps since like I was maybe 12 years old it probably peaked when I was like 14 or 15 and that was like the arc of it, and then it went downhill. Yeah. In 2012 I somehow got lucky enough to get second at ABS Nationals, but I think like I expected it so little that maybe I just didn't feel that much pressure. Oh,
you see, they
they tricked us.
Yeah. The fuck? It's gonna ring the whole 10 again?
They're a couple minutes late. It's like 10:03.
Oh, the bell.
Yeah.
I might cut that one out. Anyway. I knew this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, one thing before we move on or get anywhere else from this competition thing, I'm always interested in is if you're in a junior competitive league or whatever it happens to be, you've got coaching support and parental support, and I'm always interested in the transition to where a kid who's now becoming an adult says, okay, well, I'm gonna keep doing this, because I think I think bouldering comps and climbing comps are just like any other high school sport. A lot of kids do it, they love it, they hammer it till they turn 18, and then
for sure.
Then it goes away. So
or even sooner sometimes. Yeah, because they can get burnt out really easily. Yeah, because it's
So what did it look like to you when you were like, well, I think as an adult I'm going to just keep doing this? I mean, did you have sort of sponsorships on board, like some way to sort of pay your way or those sorts of things?
I mean, I had super supportive parents, right? So that was like, that helped me a ton. And I wouldn't be where I am today with climbing without their help and support, like especially early on, they would fly with me to Europe for junior world championships and Colorado for junior nationals, and wherever the comps were, wherever we could incorporate a trip outside along with the comp. You know, we would just go and they would, you know, take care of everything basically. And then, what kept me in climbing was rock climbing. Because there was definitely a period of time in my teenage years where I just got really distracted and really caught up with being a teenager, like, you know, most...
Shame on you.
I know. And yeah, I think I kept with it just because I loved climbing so much and I loved climbing outside so much. And I did the junior comps and a lot of the adult comps, and just because, you know, I just loved climbing, and I would still go to the gym even, you know, if I was effing off and like struggling a lot as a teenager, I would still end up at the gym and end up outside as much as I could go. And yeah, I think there were times where I still don't take it as seriously as I could. You know, it's basically my job, but oftentimes I don't treat it that way. But certainly so when I was a teenager, and I had sponsors and stuff, and you know, I'd make a bit of cash from comps, and you know, a bit of cash from my sponsors, and that was validating, and so I just kept with it. Yeah.
So what does that do to like a kid's ego?
I mean, it can definitely it can give you...
Think about it, like, if you're playing any other sport,
yeah,
you know, it would be really bizarre to have a kid be like getting sponsored as a football player in high school, or getting sponsored as any other type of thing. But here, and you're not the only one.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly there's these people coming, you know, from outside of your world to say like, you know,
totally,
you're one of the best, and we're gonna like,
yeah.
And I think it happens in skateboarding.
Yeah, skateboarding, all the independent
snowboarding.
sports. The team sports, not as much.
Right.
I mean, definitely you can think you're the shit if you are your high school football team's quarterback and you're throwing like touchdown passes in every game, and you know, all the cheerleaders want your nuts and stuff.
Well, and the parents.
But that's different. It's like
if
if you think like, you know, oh, I'm really successful at this because I'm making a little bit of money and because I'm like traveling all over the world and stuff, and it's like, yeah, it can. I mean, it definitely went to my head. It probably, I mean, it still does to a certain extent, but definitely not to the extent that it did when I was 12, 13 years old. I definitely said some like pretty embarrassing things to people, like at comps and, you know, other like outdoor crags. Sure. I'm sure when I was like a little kid and I thought I was the shit, and I don't remember what those things were exactly, but like, you know, just that I would like, just like things you might think a young teenage kid would say to someone whose validation they wanted, like, oh, you know, I climbed my first 13C yesterday, or whatever. Like, how hard do you climb, or how, like?
Well, look, here's the problem, is that no, it wasn't your problem. I mean, you were a kid. Yeah, and kids.
I'm still a kid, but I'm just a much bigger kid.
But you know, again, as the first generation, you know, of kids at the cliff, because it wasn't a kid thing to do before. Like before sport climbing, like you just said, going and climbing, trad climbing in Yosemite is not a kid activity.
Well, now it is, but not so
but
much.
It's
not
even
really,
a little
not
rare,
really.
like, to have anybody climbing anything super hard.
It's a construct of like the gym and everything.
And so here's this little kid who's climbing really well, and here's the other thing. In your generation, like you, Katie Brown, you know, Chris Lindner, were also the first generation of kids who climbed harder than these people who are at the, you know, adults who consider themselves really good. Yeah. So I think there was probably a conflict on both sides. They expected you to act more like an adult because they're used to adults being climbers, and you guys were in this whole world of like this like
totally it's like the ego of a little kid versus the ego of a
without a doubt. You know,
and it's like, what's, you know, I think a little kid is the only difference really is a little kid doesn't have like the understanding of social constructs as much as an adult would, and they're more willing to say, I did my first 13C yesterday. Like,
absolutely.
How hard do you climb, or whatever?
Yeah.
Where an adult might be thinking that, but they know to not say it.
Keep your mouth shut. No, I think. I mean, it never occurred to me until you started talking about it. But again, like
it's interesting
the
though,
appearance of you guys, and I'm putting those guys in the right cohort. You're about the same age as that crew that I just mentioned.
Yeah,
like
totally. Yeah, Chris too.
And those
Sharma,
you guys were the first ones to be
a lot of people.
Burning off adults on their projects. And now we're used to it. Like it's a running joke. Like, oh, here comes the kids to burn us off on our fucking project.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening to me now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. It's coming back around.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it doesn't sting a little sometimes, but it's also super inspiring. You know. Yeah.
Well, it does. It does.
But no, you have the same thing happening now with like a lot of the young crushers who are crushing way harder than we were when we were their age. Like the level has been the bar has been raised so high since we were teenagers. But the kids now are, they're climbing 14C when we were climbing 13C maybe.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then, it's just like you said, the adults in the community kind of see how hard the kids are climbing and how, they feel like they should behave the same as adults.
Right.
And, they're kids. They're not going to...
Totally.
It's just like, it's okay.
Give them a break.
I think it's awesome, actually. Yeah. It's like, they're just... Sometimes we need to act like kids. And
totally.
We don't. Yeah. But...
So, let me ask you about kind of fast forwarding. Like, you're 28 years old, so this hasn't actually been going on that long. You transition out of just competitions, indoor climbing, into outdoor climbing pretty early.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't really necessarily say I transitioned out of comps. I did both, like simultaneously.
That's not the right way to put it.
Yeah, I did. I definitely my focus went from like plastic and comps to mainly outdoor climbing, and comps became like a side thing more so.
And you basically have been making a living as a climber.
More or less.
Since like moving on from high school and moving out of the house.
Basically, more or less. I mean, the way that I make it work is that I live at home in San Francisco at my dad's house, rent free.
Right.
And so I don't have the financial obligations that most adults do.
Well, if you're traveling all the time.
Yeah,
I'd be paying rent somewhere.
Right.
That you're not even there.
If
you're going to be on the road or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was definitely my reality for a good number of years up until like last year or whatever. But now I'm in the Bay Area a lot more.
Okay.
But that's how I've made it work basically.
So through sponsorship, and can you actually win any substantial amount of money at these competitions? It's actually one of the big holes in the Enormocast is that I don't spend a lot of time on comps.
Yeah.
So when I get somebody in here...
Did you watch the ABS Nationals at all?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's exciting. I mean, I find it exciting because that's kind of like used to be my world and stuff. And I just like... It's cool. It's high energy. And, you know a lot of the people competing and stuff. But basically the answer is no. You can't... There's no way you can make a living from comp earnings.
Right.
I think some of the Euros do if they have... you need sponsors too, and you need like you need comp incentives.
Right.
Like in surfing, if you won, half or even a quarter of the ASP World Tour events, you'd be set for the year. Mm-hmm. But in climbing, there's no way.
Right.
Like the prize money just isn't there. And back when I was doing a lot of the comps, there were just a lot more of them. Now in the States, there really aren't that many. Right. Especially ones that you can like win money at. I mean, I guess there's a lot that kind of fly more under the radar. They still offer cash prizes and stuff, but like there's the whole series of comps on the East Coast, like the Dark Horse and that stuff. I mean, it's just like one comp circuit keeps replacing another, and it's like, I don't know. The Dark Horse ones seem really cool, but they're like in Boston, so it's really far away from California.
Yeah, I mean, well, there you go. Like,
it's just a big risk to
drop a bunch of money on a plane ticket. Yeah.
And go there and it's just not...
No, it's tricky. I mean, it's definitely really like an amateur sport in that sense.
Totally.
No one... You basically need like, I don't know, like patronage to be able to do things. And a lot of these folks, it's their parents. I mean, I think it seems like it's stronger here, or not here, we're in Spain, but in the U.S. as a junior sport, because basically there's like a patronage from your parents.
Totally. Yeah. That's how it works. And then, it breeds the new generation of kid crushers, and then they transition to the rocks and, climb 14C when they're 14 or 15 or whatever.
Right.
But
are they still climbing when they're 25? Who knows?
Yeah, I'd say who knows exactly. I mean, some do and some don't.
Right.
I think that most of the young guns who pursue or who fall in love with climbing and pursue it to that high of a level where they're climbing the highest level that someone their age does, they're probably going to love it enough to stick with it through thick and thin. Even if they get a little burnout on it, when they're partying in high school or whatever, or in college, who knows, People find other interests, people get wrapped up in stuff, but a lot of the best comp climbers in the States and in Europe too, even the freaking Adam Ondra is a full-time student. Right. Yeah. It's you can't, if you're dedicated enough, if you love something enough, you'll find time for it.
It's kind of like a almost famous thing, the what do you love about music? But when did you figure that out? Again, you had to have made some sort of life decision early 20s, or maybe you're still working on it.
Oh, I definitely am.
But what... It's kind of as an adult, it's a little, we just talked about it, it's a little bit of a bleak outlook, right? What are you going to do? You're going to live at home, you're going to cobble together some sponsorship money, the dream of just being able to climb all the time. That lasts for a little while. Right. But then there's also the dream of maybe I'd like to own something, and I'd like to have a place that's my house.
Build a life.
Yeah, so, before we get to the now, but, was there a moment, or did it just kind of you were on a wave that this is the life you found once you got out on your own, so to speak?
I think it's the life I found once I got out on my own. Yeah. I mean,
you were good at climbing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the easy part. Climbing is the easy part. Wondering whether I'm doing the right thing is the hard part. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess I've just been riding the same wave that I caught the first day I walked into Mission Cliffs, and it's grown and shrunk over the years, many times over. And, I don't think I'll ever jump off completely. I think it'll always be a part of my life, but yeah, it's hard. But Spencer, Vicky, and I were talking about this just today. We were having a little philosophy class over in Calgeral. I'm staying right now just across the street, basically, from where Chris is staying. Also within direct line of noise waves from the bell, which chimes once the first 15 minutes on the hour, twice at 30 minutes. Well, actually, it's not 15 minutes. It's 13 minutes. Yeah, right. It's a couple minutes late. 28 minutes and 43 minutes. And then at the hour, it chimes the hour. Sometimes it chimes 4 times and then the hour. And sometimes it just chimes the hour. It's kind of random. I'm sure there's a science to it, but we haven't figured it out.
The randomness of it is actually as infuriating as the rest of it. Because you're just the last hour... if it was more regular, I would still feel better about it, even if it was noisier.
I think you have to pay closer attention to it.
It freaks out in the morning.
Really?
Yeah.
It's get up. It's 8 o'clock. Anyway. If it was the States, it would be 5:30.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It does shut down at midnight, though, till 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like some nights it
No.
Oh, okay. You would know.
It does the last 12 at midnight, then it wakes you up at 7.
Okay.
And then it freaks out at 8 to really get your ass out of bed.
I haven't been paying as close attention to it as you have. Sorry.
I'm closer to it. You can see it from my house.
Yeah, we're literally looking right at it. It's right across the street, and it's probably only 150 feet away, so...
All right, tell me your friend's project again.
We'll call it Bane.
Yeah,
it's the bane of Chris's existence these days. Anyway, we're staying also within earshot of the bell, but just across the street a little further away. I'm staying with James Lucas, Senor Peaches.
You're right.
And our friends Spencer and Vicky from the RV Project.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you were saying that you were talking to them philosophy.
Yeah, well,
we
just
got off on the bell tangent, right. Which will happen again in 15 minutes.
Yeah, probably 13 now. Well, we were talking about a lot of stuff, but it's just all, all life, and it's all related. But we were talking about climbing and basically just getting out what you put into it. And I think that's like a philosophy that can be carried over to every aspect of your life, It's like, A, how bad do you want it? B, like, how much work are you willing to put into it? And C, what's the outcome of that work or whatever. And so I think you can make it as much or as little of your life as you want to. And, you see guys, or you see, men and women, professional climbers really like pursuing the life of a professional climber wholeheartedly. And, and you see it paying off. And you see a lot of really, really talented climbers who aren't professional, or maybe they're somewhere, in that gray area. They get product, or they get a little bit of, comp incentives or media incentives or whatever. And they don't, they see it as just their, distraction from their other priority, which is their main thing, Mm-hmm. So you kind of, you get out of it what you put into it. And I think I could certainly be doing a lot more. I could be putting a lot more into it and probably getting a lot more out of it. I could be putting my whole life into it if I want, but I'm not right now.
What are you doing instead? I mean, you're here in Spain,
Yeah, I'm here in Spain, and I'm climbing full time, and
right.
I have sponsors that are super supportive, and mm-hmm. I have a whole community behind me, and but I have I have tons of time. There's no denying that, and I definitely don't use my time as effectively as I could with writing and stuff like that. And I think I have a pretty unique voice for someone who's been doing this thing for 20 years now and has been all over the world and has a lot of cool stories to tell. And I'm not really doing a great job of telling those stories as often or as effectively as I could be. And just selling myself basically mm-hmm. as a brand, but also just, inspiring people right. as much as I could.
So what's holding you back? I mean, where are you at? Have you got one foot in something else, or?
Well,
what
kind of.
What are we talking about here? Have you gotten lazy?
Gotten lazy? Yeah. I think I was lazy to begin with.
I mean, there probably comes a point at which, you were this prodigy to a certain mm-hmm. extent.
Yeah.
Your sort of ability spoke for itself.
Yeah.
And there's probably came a time, or is
that
coming
phase
a time,
is over.
Yeah, where it's okay, what else have you got? I mean, is that sort of where you are? I mean,
that's kind of where I am right now, yeah. And I mean, that's kind of where I've been for a good number of years now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there was a time in my life where, I was near the top level of sport climbers maybe, or boulders. Probably not at the top, but somewhere close by.
Sure.
Now I'm not. In the mix. And I think I'm still in the mix, and I think I still have, a lot of fun ascents under my belt. Hopefully, mm-hmm. I hope so. I still think that I can do harder climbs than I've ever done before if I put my mind to it. But, I guess, I've never had a really strong work ethic, and I've never just sacrificing a lot of my time and energy for something that isn't just a rock climb that I can't just see the top of mm-hmm. and say, okay, I can, identify the obstacles of this. I can see how much work I need to put into this to, finish it. And I can see it through to the end. That's fun work. Climbing a rock is not work really for me. It's just the only thing I know. But, all the other stuff, telling my story, inspiring people, the stuff that I really want to do now that mm-hmm. I'm not at the top of my game, or maybe I'm, at the top of my game still, but I'm not a cutting edge level rock climber necessarily anymore. I mean, I think I still have a lot to put into it in terms of just pure climbing and stuff, but there's a lot more I could be doing with it, basically. Yeah. And I've been struggling with that a lot lately. I mean, I think I've been struggling with it in one way or another since I was a little kid. Because I always hated school. I always hated putting lots of work into homework or studying for tests or whatever. And I think that's really like carried over into my quote unquote professional life. Jesus, I'm almost like afraid for people to hear this now, but
Well, yeah, because we just sort of ran it into a corner. Like, I don't want to start lecturing you, is what I was about to do. Like, get your shit together, Pringle.
No, I know. I've been don't worry. I've been lecturing myself plenty lately. Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that because, you know, years ago I had noticed that, like, you know, there's these certain sports, and we actually mentioned skateboarding already in this. I think snowboarding to a certain extent, that really, like, kind of eats athletes up and sort of spits them out because
super physical.
It's super physical. To do the biggest, baddest shit, you're going to injure yourself eventually. I mean, every once in a while somebody makes it through, like Sean, what's his nugget with the red hair? Snowboarding.
White.
Yeah. Like Sean White, you know, has this longevity. Has this longevity to his career. Like, you know, Tony Hawk had this longevity to his
Kelly
career.
Slater.
But for every one of those guys, the thing, it just chewed them up. And there was, you know, like a kid like you who they came and they gave him sponsorships and all of it, and then all of a sudden he gets injured, and that's the end of it. And who knows what he's doing now, because we don't care. Sport, I mean, climbing was never like that, but I think in the last, I mean, again, as your generation came up and these following young kid generations, I mean, it's like, how long do you last at the top? You know, you had a serious injury. Yeah. That sidelined you for how long?
Basically a year.
Right. What was it?
I tore my labrum at an ABS Nationals in Boulder.
Okay.
Yeah, fully tore it.
Right.
On like the last finals problem. And it brought up a lot of questions like, well, the first question was, will I ever be able to climb hard again? You know? And I answered that question, you know, after I had the surgery, after I did rehab, after I started climbing again, after I came back to it and I realized I could keep, like, that was the first time I went back to school after high school, was because I thought my professional climbing career was just over. And it was kind of ironic too, because right when I hurt myself, I think I'd like just started, like I just gotten a new sponsor, or like one of my sponsors just started paying me a little bit more, and I was earning like more money than I ever had. Right. Like when I hurt myself. And then I was just like, you know, now I'm useless to my sponsors basically. And so I went back to school and did that for 3 semesters. And then as soon as I was like at the top of my game again and having a blast again, I just dropped out again and hit the road again. Yeah.
What were you going to study?
I was just taking a bunch of different classes. I took a really cool oceanography class, some like anthropology classes, and then just like core curriculum classes that I kind of hated. Right. Like, you know, English stuff you have B or whatever, and like U.S. history. Sure. Yeah. And a few others like that. And a few others that were fun. I tried to take a piano class. I didn't stick with it at all. But maybe someday.
You have this realization, or you understand this thing of like, there's a point at which you're going to have to make some sort of choice. Yeah. And when you injured your shoulder, you were like, uh-oh. Yeah. I better. But at the same time, I mean, you're 28. Like, you know, it's not like you're over the hill and there's nothing left to do.
No, of course not. I mean? And I'm still just as inspired by pure climbing as I was when I was a little kid. Right. I still love it, like, a lot. And I don't think I'll ever stop loving it. Maybe I might, you know, reprioritize my life at some point and, you know, put my ducks in a row for some other, you know, make room for other things, basically. But yeah, I guess the reason I've just kind of wandered down this same path for years and years is because I haven't really had to do anything else.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, dude. I mean, to talk to this person.
I come from a very privileged, like, family, I guess, in a way, you know? It's like, my parents could have been like, no, you're not living at our house for free.
Right.
You know? Get a job. Get a real job, go back to school. I mean, my mom has, like, encouraged me to go back to school and to take different career paths and do different stuff. And I don't know, it's just like hard work and real sacrifice. I never really, like, I didn't go to college straight out of high school, and I didn't finish college, and I just never really learned, like, I never really learned to, like, work super hard for things that I either wanted or didn't want. Like, the climbing part comes easy for me, basically. I think I could climb a lot better if I worked at it, but...
Right. Well, God damn it, Ethan, you're fucking up my entire philosophy around climbing, that, like, it teaches you to sacrifice for a goal and everything else. You're messing it all up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's start again.
Well, I think that's true for a lot of people.
But for you, that's like the easy part.
Well, look, like, I can come to Spain without having trained much and probably send my project. I mean, I'm going to need to extend my ticket probably to send it, but you know, there are a lot harder climbs on the same cliff that I'm trying, as, you know, harder climbs than my project that also inspire me, that I would love to be strong enough to do. And maybe, you know, if I had made more time in my life before I came on this trip to train really freaking hard in the gym, and you know, maybe I'd be on them instead. I mean, I'm perfectly happy trying the climb that I'm trying, and I wouldn't say, like, every minute of the process on it has been, like, nothing but kittens and rainbows and, like, fun times. Like, I've had, you know, I've entertained doubts about, like, do I have the strength to send this on this trip? Do I have enough time? Like, do I even want to keep trying this?
Right.
Like, do I want to go and try easier stuff that I know I can do?
Well, dude, this is the whole thing right here. This is it, because that's what I always wonder about. You know, and people who listen to the show, they by this time have a feel for what kind of climber I am. You know, and for
what kind of climber are you?
Well, for me, sport climbing, I always say that, like, you know, sport climbing is like the chocolate cake, and like, for me, like, trad climbing and big route climbing is like the big juicy hamburger. Like, the chocolate cake is awesome. Yeah. But really, you can't live on it. Like, for me, I gotta have the big burger, right? But I love it, and I enjoy it. And I'm here on a sport climbing trip, like, unequivocally, just, like, love it.
Mowing down the chocolate cake.
Right. But I have a trouble, like, banging my head up against a long-term project. Like, this idea of coming here. But what I'm interested in is, you know, as your life is gone on, and you like pick these projects, you know, does it start to seem like work? Are you, like, walking in here and, like, punching the card? And that's because, for me, really quickly, it gets to the point where I'm just like, well, I wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, another day, I got to go do this thing. I don't have that in me. I admire people that do, and I'm not in any way disparaging that, because, you know, some of the people I admire most in climbing, that's one of the things I admire about them, is that their tenacity. Yeah, they can just keep trying. And I realize that in and of itself is a skill, and we've talked about it on that show. However, it doesn't matter if you're 28 right now or you're 35. Eventually, you know, that the arc of getting better every time, or trying a harder project every time, is going to go over. Right. So, you know, what then? Is that still going to be something that inspires you, or is it going to be like, I got to go to Spain again to try? Well, what is your Reina Mora? What are you trying right now?
I'm trying La Reina Mora right now. Yeah.
Oh, I got to go back to Spain another season to try that. I mean, look at Danny Andrade and fucking Rambla, right? Yeah. Like, that thing is hanging over his head like a freaking guillotine. So, anyway. Can you talk to that, like, where that is?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Like, is it still, like, I mean, can you keep doing it?
I mean, not forever.
Right.
Right? Because, like, at a certain point, like you said, like, you're going to start trying easier things. And I mean, maybe some people can find joy in that, find joy in sticking with a long-term project that they knew they could have done, you know, in half the time, however many years ago or whatever.
Right.
I hope that'll be me someday. I don't know. I mean, Jesus, that sounds like a sad prospect for like being in that space as a professional climber. Well, maybe by then I won't, you know, my label won't be just professional climber. It'll be something else, something similar to professional climber, but something that provides me with more outlets, you know, different outlets besides just going and banging my head against the wall on the same piddly little sport climber boulder or whatever.
Right.
But you said, like, you know, is it work? Does it feel like work to go and like it? Does it feel like I'm punching in sometimes to go try the project? Yeah, shit, yeah. Especially now in this phase of my life where I'm like questioning the path that I'm on more, and yeah, just who I want to be, what I want to put into climbing and what I want to get out of it.
Right.
Yeah. It's like you put, like, I think every climber puts pressure on themselves to send something that they know they can do. Because you probably wouldn't try something if you didn't think you had any chance of doing it.
Sure.
And eventually, after you start trying it, at some point, if you keep trying it, you're going to realize that you're capable of doing it. That's when you really start entertaining doubt and like just putting pressure on yourself, unneeded pressure, and allowing like external factors to influence your decision making and stuff. And yeah, it's like I've been noticing, like, you know, I notice certain Instagram entities reposting pictures of me on Lorena Mora and whatever, saying, oh, he's so close, like, you know, he's gonna do it any day now or whatever. And it's like, God, I wonder, like, should I have like kept it a secret that I was trying this route?
You can't. Have you been to El Pati on a fucking like good conditions day?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't keep it secret, I'm afraid.
No.
Not in
I
this
guess
town.
not. No. Well, there's like a photographer jugging up the line
every time you turn around.
We're making
Yeah.
it sound so like quintessentially scene-y.
Yeah.
It's really not like that on a lot of days, but some days are like that. Yeah.
The days
on the
I've seen
weekends.
it are, yeah,
on the weekends,
so.
it's like that for sure.
But there's also this new sort of scene this thing that I've been seeing your name involved with it, which is sort of big expedition and adventure climbing, as we like to call it, which warms my heart. You
Good.
know, that
I'm glad.
You're like,
yeah.
I'm not, you know, you just said a piddly sport climb. And
I love sport climbing.
Yeah, I know
just
you
as a
do.
quick disclaimer.
I know. And that,
it's chocolate cake to me too.
But but all you want is chocolate cake. But I mean, and that's the thing is in my heart of hearts, at the end of the day, I'm you know, I'm that guy where I'm just like, yeah, it's just a sport climb.
Yeah.
And that's fun. Like I said, it's just who I am. But you've like in the last couple of years, like gone after a couple expeditions. Like, how did that come about? Like, what's the thinking?
Michael
there?
Becky, Mountain Hardware. Yeah, just meeting Michael Becky through our connection with Mountain Hardware, having that mutual sponsor. I think it was John Dickey's idea to put Mike and I together because he knew John, or like John knew Mike, and John was like, oh man, you know, this guy Mike LeBecky, like I think you guys would have a blast together on an expedition. Like we should, you know, here's a couple locations that I've been thinking about going with Mike. And unfortunately, you know, Mike and I have still not gone on any expeditions, but I've been lucky enough to go on a couple with Mike. And the first big one we went on, before which we had never actually climbed together, was to Greenland. And it was freaking rad. It was like the coolest trip I've ever been on. It was the most remote place by far that I've ever been.
Well, I think it's about the most remote place you can actually be.
One of them, for sure.
Short of like South Antarctica or like the North Pole.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's out there for sure. It's about as far away from civilization
What were you guys doing?
as you can get. So Angie came too. Angie Payne, who you
right.
interviewed. You know, I think she talked about it in the interview that you did with her, and that was rad to have her there. Angie and I have been friends for a long time, just from the junior comps and everything. Mm-hmm. And kind of the angle or whatever for Hardware was to like, you know, throw Angie and I in with Mike and just kind of like, you know, have him mentor, like be kind of our expedition mentor.
Because he's like, I mean, I'd love to have him on the show too, but
you should.
Like,
he's a riot. I love that guy.
Expedition master, like comes up with these crazy ideas about these crazy places to go and where's
and he goes for it.
Does it, and that sort of thing. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, and so we went with him and with Keith Lazinski and just had a freaking blast. And we brought crash pads because that was like Angie's main focus was to go on this crazy expedition to Greenland and go bouldering. And it just so happened that the place we ended up, which wasn't the place we initially intended to end up, but it was a different place because the sea ice had melted and we couldn't, you know, go out in the open ocean with the boat we had and stuff. So we ended up in a different location, and it just so happened that there were like awesome boulders, like right where our base camp was, and then around below the cirque of towers, there were awesome boulders. So we did some bouldering for a few days, and then Mike and I, independently of one another, saw this line on like the biggest tower in the cirque that was just like begging to be climbed. It was like this corner system kind of dihedral thing that went from the ground all the way to the top of the tower, and it was like I had never seen a line like that on a wall that big, and so we climbed it, and we did it kind of in capsule style or whatever, I guess. But yeah, it was freaking epic.
Had you ever done anything like that before? In terms of like big wall climbing and...
Not so much. I mean, I've been trad climbing for a good number of years and mostly single pitch stuff. Like,
so it's like sport trad, like trying really hard things that happen to have gear on them.
Exactly, yeah. Like on the front range, like I made a dedicated trip to the front range to do like a lot of the like 13 plus 514 like hard trad climbs, even though they were more like sport climbs. Because then I went to Indian Creek and just totally got my butt handed to me.
Well, I mean, it's the trad labels. We don't have to go into it that much, but it gets thrown around. But when you do these one pitch
gear protected sport climbs,
I always say you're approaching them like a sport climb. So yeah, they happen to have gear on them, but you get it all sorted out.
Yeah.
You know exactly.
It's kind of like a head point or something.
But this is the first time you've done anything really big like that. And
I mean, I'd done like Half Dome. Okay. I'd never bivvied on a wall, but like I had done some longer routes in the valley.
So what did you get out of that? What did you get out of this expedition?
Just. I mean, we did like the proudest ascent I've ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was totally epic. And
you ate the hamburger.
Oh man, we
ate the big old hamburger. Is what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, we ate like 4 buns or 4 burgers and threw away the bun. Yeah, we and with bacon and cheese and onions and the lot. Yeah, we did the first 3 pitches like on individual days and fixed lines up to this like ledge system about 600 feet up the wall, 600 feet up like a 3,000 foot tower. And then after that we jugged our lines and we're gonna blast alpine style or whatever. And we didn't have sleeping bags and we didn't have all we had was the clothes we were wearing and a backpack with a bunch of water and some food in it. And then we blasted, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I guess I expected it to take us less time, but it took us like a full 3 days to do it, basically. And there was pretty much no sleeping happening.
Because there was no nighttime.
Well, no, there was nighttime.
Oh, there was?
Yeah, because it was August. It wasn't like right at the summer solstice. I think it was rad because we got to see the northern lights a couple nights.
Oh, okay. So
actually,
there was
like
a few hours of dark.
Yeah. More than a few. Probably like 4, 5, 6 hours, something like that. Yeah, but it was cool because once we were high enough up the wall, we could see like the light kind of traversing the horizon. Mm-hmm. Like we could see a little bit of daylight like on the horizon, like going across the sky, and then the sun would come back up. But it was definitely dark for a few hours. But we blasted up this wall, and there was a lot of really scary chaws, and there was a lot of really good like rock too. You know, it was like pitches up to, I don't know, 12 minus or something. And just questing like up. And yeah, we spent 2 nights and 3 days on the wall, basically topped out on the 3rd morning and didn't really sleep. We kind of tried to sleep our first night, and then our second night, I just kept climbing through the night.
Right.
Yeah. I dropped a Jumar at one point, and it like fell down the wall, and Lebecki caught it. Like it fell like the whole 200-meter pitch that I just climbed, and it bounced off to the side, and I was like, oh fuck, there it goes. Like there goes my Jumar. We only have 1 set now. And then it hit another little corner and bounced right back towards Lebecki, and I could see him like down there like lining it up, and he snatches it out of the air.
It's like he didn't break his hand.
Well, it broke his finger.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it broke his index finger, or fractured it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he couldn't climb anymore. He couldn't lead anymore. So I had to do like the last 8 pitches in a row or whatever.
All right.
Yeah. Which, I don't know, was fun for me, but unfortunate for him.
Totally.
Yeah. But I had never drilled a bolt by hand. Did that quite a few number of times, and
yeah, so you learned a lot.
yeah, for sure.
Right on.
Yeah, and it was just an amazing experience to come away with, and left me definitely wanting more of that type of thing.
So you are at this crossroads, you're deciding, I mean, honestly, it sounds like you're deciding, like, what's next? Am I going to stay this professional rock climber? But you've had this glimpse into expeditions.
Yeah. What I'm struggling with is learning how to put more of myself into it so that I can just have it be something that's a little bit more fulfilling, and something that when I come away with it, like I'm talking about the whole professional climbing thing. 'Cause you know, we all need, I really want it to be my main thing and my job and everything, but I just haven't quite learned how to like put that type of effort into it yet. But I really want to, so that I can like also enjoy time away from it and have some other passions and stuff, and enjoy that time too, and not feel like, but there's this and this and this that I could be doing right now that I'm ignoring, like in my, you know, professional climbing life or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like, it seems like it's an endless, I mean, even with the Enormocast, like, there's endless amounts of avenues that I could be pursuing.
Yeah.
To try to like
Reddit,
hype it up or get it better. Like Reddit, we were talking before I started recording. We were talking about my inability to be involved with Reddit. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's really just up to you.
Yeah.
So what's the? Let me ask you the last question. Then what's the? You know, if you had it perfect, what's the dream? What's you know, this is like some sort of job interview, but what's like the 5-year plan? What's the outlook?
I guess like, I mean, money is not my biggest concern. I guess I'm in like a small category of people in the world who don't, and almost have never had to worry about money. I've never like had big money woes or anything. Knock on wood. But I don't know if the way that I've been, you know, pursuing my career around professional climbing, like, I don't know if that's been like as satisfying and as fulfilling as I'd like it to be. So if I could, you know, figure out ways to, it's funny, I've actually thought about doing like hosting a podcast sort of thing.
Forget it, dude.
Okay. There's only room for one.
No, it's a pain in the ass.
Oh. I don't know. I just like to figure out ways to share more of myself and be creative.
So what do you think has to happen for you to like to make these things?
Well, I think the first step is like just taking more time for myself, paying closer attention to myself and stuff. Like I don't know, I've been like just spread really thin recently. I didn't know if I would like mention this during the interview or not, but my dad had a stroke, like just about 1.5 years ago. And, so I also like, you know, simultaneously kind of fell in love with this girl, and, we, you know, have had a relationship, and, in a lot of ways, like all that stuff, like turned my life upside down. And I was already spread sort of thin, or I felt like I was, and like not having a lot of time to like put work into things that I was passionate about, like storytelling and stuff and writing and all that. And now with like more sort of, I wouldn't say responsibilities, but like just having my life in even more places now. Yeah, it's just even harder to make time for myself. But I've never been good at that. I've never been good at like making time to examine myself and just like be by myself and be with myself. And I don't know if I really needed to as much when I was like a kid and a teenager and someone in their early 20s, but now that like I guess real life has caught up with me more, I feel like I need to like just take better care of myself, basically.
So it's gotten more complicated.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, life has, and where climbing fits in has.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just, I guess I'm like struggling a lot with the question that you asked me of how the climbing community fits into my life now.
Right.
Yeah. But I think I have a pretty good gift for storytelling, and I've definitely have a little bit of guilt associated with not like making the most of that recently. So I'm going to try to.
All right.
But I'm still discovering how to work and sacrifice for that.
You've made a start towards that here. I mean, you've been really candid. I appreciate that, Ethan.
This is the expose.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. But I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for being so candid. And
you're welcome.
I mean, I totally wish you luck.
Thanks.
I appreciate the fact that you're talking about these struggles, because I honestly believe that, as I kind of said earlier, it seems like climbing is becoming this sport where it's younger and younger. You're kind of forced to make these choices in terms of like, well, I'm not going to be climbing hard forever.
Yeah.
What's my next step? So I really appreciate you sort of sharing that, because it's,
Yeah, definitely.
And again, you're that first generation. You're like this, honestly, you don't see it, I don't think, but from my perspective, like we feel like climbing gyms have been here forever, but they haven't. They've been here for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Which is when you started.
Yeah.
And you guys are the first generation of kids who started and became phenoms, kicked ass, and then are on the other side of it.
Right.
And
it seems so stereotypical, but it's kind of real.
You guys are, it's 20 years out.
Yeah.
You said Mission Cliffs was 20, had just started when you were 10, so you're 28, so 18, 19 years for these gyms. So it's an interesting thing. Europe's been a little bit ahead of us, but... Yeah.
I mean, professional climbing was like the thing that I wanted to do most when I was 12. That was like, I was like, yeah,
I know, and
this is awesome. Like, this is what I want to do. It
existed then, and it still is hardly a viable option. So.
Who knew?
Yeah. So. Anyway, I appreciate it. I think it's a really great glimpse into what it's like, because we all think, you guys are making millions of dollars or whatever. I don't know. Maybe we don't, but
some people might.
Yeah. So
we're not.
Well, good luck here in Spain.
Thanks.
And thanks for sitting down.
Welcome.
All right, folks, thanks for listening. I want to thank Ethan for sitting down. He was a little concerned before and after the interview that maybe he was a little too open and revealing, but I assured him that the Enormocast listenership was quite mature and would understand that to reveal some of your weaknesses like that is actually a sign of strength and character. So again, thanks a lot, Ethan, for sharing that with us, that insight into the struggles behind being a professional climber. And thanks for being that mature audience. If you want to help this thing keep going, as you know from listening, you can go to enormocast.com, click on the Help Out tab, see what you can do to further the cause at the Enormocast. Keep me stoked, keep me doing this thing, even on my rest days here in Spain. So, home soon. Hopefully see you at Red Rock Rendezvous. And don't forget to check your knot.
Come far, pilgrim.
Feels like far.
Were it worth the trouble?
What trouble?